want to tell you about my real income raising St. Croix sheep, because if you're thinking about getting into sheep, there's a real opportunity with St. Croix that you're not going to find with other sheep breeds, because the demand for chemical-free food is at an all-time high, and people want safe food they can eat that's not been sprayed with chemicals. And St. Croix is one of the few breeds that can be grown and raised entirely without chemicals. So you're not going to get anything for selling St. Croix down at the sale barn, but if you sell direct to individuals, the demand is huge. So I've been selling my St. Croix for $300 each, and apparently that's low because I could have sold everything I had for $300. And I only sold 30 lambs this year because I'm trying to build up my herd to get up to about 100 ewes. So that's why I didn't sell so many. So that generated $9,000 in revenue. I also put 10 lambs in my own freezer, and even though I sold it to myself, that really saved us a lot more than $3,000. So I'm going to call that as revenue of $3,000 regardless. And so that gave me a total revenue of $12,000. Now for my expenses, I'm leasing 29 acres of hayfield for $1,200. There's $400 for one field, $800 for the other. And I have to have this to have chemical-free hay, so it's very important to have this lease. I run through a bag of dog food, 50-pound bag of dog food, about every 2 weeks. So with that, they go for about $25 a piece down at Sam's. 24 bags a year, that's about $600. I have 3 very large guardian dogs. For sheep feed, I'm using about 20 bags a year just to get them into the barn. And they're costing me $25 a bag for a 50-pound bag because it's certified organic feed. And so that's averaging up to $500 a year. It used to be a lot cheaper when I bought from the co-op, but now it's more expensive. Sheep minerals, about $100 a year for salt blocks and sheep minerals. It's not that much. For the vet bills, medicines, and dewormers, $0, thank goodness. My own labor expense, I'm spending maybe 25 hours a year with these sheep. Most of that might be with hauling hay, but I don't do anything. So at $40 an hour, that comes out to about $1,000 of my own personal time. And so I don't drench, and I don't medicate, I don't trim hooves, and I sure don't chase them around the pasture with hot wire trying to get them to go into a rotational grazing system. I don't have time for all that. So my labor expense is still pretty low. And I think most people are not considering their own time as an expense. And so I'm trying to put that in here. Infrastructure, which would be fencing and tags and a sheep chute that I built this year, maybe $1,000. That's still pretty high, I think, because I didn't spend very much. And so my total expenses at best would be $4,400, and that gives me a net income of $7,600. Now, the interesting thing is I could double or triple the number of sheep I have, and I still have enough hay, so the hayfield lease would be fine, the dog food, same number of dogs, same amount of sheep feed, because I just need to catch them in the barn. And so my expenses really wouldn't go up if I were to increase the number of sheep I have. So here's what I've got. I've got 40 acres that's fenced for sheep. I've got another 29 acres of rented hayfield, and that means I can run at least 100 ewes on my property. St. Croix sheep are spectacular, and they average 2.1 lambs per birth. So with 100 ewes, I'm pretty certain I could raise at least 200 lambs a year. And at $300 each a lamb, that comes out to $60,000 a year, which is significant. But I really think $300 each is kind of low for St. Croix because there's such a demand for them. I can't believe how far people would drive to come to my farm and buy the sheep from me. And they would have bought every sheep I had if I wanted to sell them. So why are St. Croix sheep in such demand now? Well, it's because they can be sold as organic. Organic lamb goes for $18 a pound. Here's Honeybrook Farm, and they have their ground lamb at $18 or $17.99 a pound, which is $18. Another example is this True Beef Organic. They've got their organic grass-fed pasture-raised lamb, 19.25 pounds. It comes out to $18.25 a pound is what they're selling it for. So an 80-pound St. Croix lamb that produces 40 pounds of ground lamb at $18 a pound, that's $720. And if you subtract out the processing fees of like $120, you're still looking at $600 a lamb. So yeah, selling my lambs at $300 a piece, they are underpriced. That's why they went fast. And so to break this market open for myself, I have to get my USDA organic certification. But the good thing about that is that it totally knocks out any type of competition I've got, because almost every other sheep breed has to use dewormers to survive. You might find some Katahdin that are able to make it without dewormers, but all the Dorpers in the southeast, they have to use dewormers, and they cannot be certified USDA organic. So the fact there's not a lot of competition, that also drives up the prices. So here's my goals for raising St. Croix sheep now. I'm starting to kind of get serious about this. First of all, I want to increase my production to 100 ewes so I can produce 200 lambs a year, and that would generate $60,000 a year in income. Second step is to get my USDA organic certification, which will knock out my competitors and give me this different market. The last step really is to sell meat direct to the customer and not as breeding stock. First of all, start a CSA so I can sell organic lamb for $18 a pound. There's a lot of demand in Nashville, which is about an hour away from me, for this kind of product. This will also increase the sales price to around $600 per lamb. And the other thing that selling meat direct to the customer does for me is that I can sell the less than perfect lambs as ground lamb, which I couldn't do with selling breeding stock, because everybody wants the best breeding stock for their own herd, their own flock. So I can sell the less than perfect ones and grind them up, and that's just fine. And that will help me improve my genetics. And so by testing the market and seeing what the demand is, now I'm going to start taking my sheep business a lot more seriously and try and build up into a real business. I've been a programmer and done a lot of work like that. I've also got patents I hold on geodesic dome design that I have, and I make most of my money that way. But selling sheep is no longer going to be a hobby for me. I'm going to actually take it to the next limit that I can. Well, thanks for watching the video.